Research Team 401 reviewed medical literature, collected data from construction workers, and created a practical mental health guide for construction professionals. The guide addresses mental health fundamentals and work-related stress's impact on construction workers, evaluating employee assistance initiatives, and promoting constructive mental health conversations in the workplace. This resource provides valuable knowledge and guidance to support the mental well-being of individuals in the construction industry. Here to present, please welcome Sid Bhandari, Dana Piscopo, and Bert Royer.
I'm going to put my...
Hello, and thank you everyone for the introduction and the opportunity to work on this most important research project. I'm going to stay here and stabilize myself a little bit. I have a little bit of a knee problem, so I won't be walking across the stage. My name is Dana Piscopo, and I am a Director of Sales Operations for Oracle Corporation in the Construction and Engineering Global Business Unit. And I'm used to speaking on behalf of myself, my story, my programs that I've implemented as a certified recovery coach, and also on behalf of my employees at Oracle. But today, I am happy to be here to speak on behalf of this wonderfully empathetic, creative, and intelligent research team, as well as those in the construction industry that may feel like they don't have a voice. So let's talk a little bit about mental health. Even before the pandemic, we were struggling with mental health. I think we can all agree on that one. And then entered the pandemic that hit us across the world. Whether you look at developed countries or developing countries, there is a massive crisis happening in mental health right now. Within all demographics across the globe, what is being talked about? Not only the suicide crisis that is happening, but mental health in general. And with people being more dependent on medication, people feeling that they have chronic anxiety, and the life expectancy actually decreasing. So let's reel it in a little bit to the construction industry. Saying that there is a mental health crisis, or any other word that you would like to use, dilemma, emergency, urgency, situation, I'm starting to use turning point, is becoming increasingly commonplace. And we are now acutely aware of the statistics. And I don't know how to use this. Here we go. So, suicide rates 5 times higher in North America in the construction industry. And that is compared to the general population globally. You heard that right, it's globally. And while the data is more difficult to get for developing countries, it is similar. And we're also beating out the general population in Australia and the UK and Germany. These next two are a little bit more near and dear to my heart that I relate to, is the increase in alcohol, opioid, and substance uses, which is also higher than the general population. It also, regionally, in some areas, beats out teenagers who have the biggest vulnerability to substance use disorders. So it's no surprise that the rising number of cases of workers being diagnosed with mental illness. And the rising number of those cases of these workers that are diagnosed, the abuses that are happening, the suicide ideation rates, the suicide rates themselves, they have all led us to this particular crisis or turning point that is calling for action from industry leaders, which is something really unique to this industry. And there are so many opinions on this subject, so many opinions, but not a lot of evidence. And that is what we came together for. The industry leaders and the academics alike, We know and feel that there is an ever apparent need to address this issue. So where do we go from here, and how do we get there? Enter this joint venture between CII and CSRA, which is the Construction Safety Research Alliance, to produce a guidance for everyone here in the audience today as practitioners on how to address mental health challenges rooted in scientifically defendable evidence. It seems simple, it sounds simple, but it really isn't, and it is not to be taken lightly. We wanted to produce a roadmap to take action that is based in evidence. And this guidance, which will be a guidebook that will be available to everybody and shared with the industry at large, is open sourced and demonstrated with scientifically defendable evidence. So where do we need to act, and how do we act, and how do we ensure we do not cause more harm through our actions or our inactions? There are many companies that are already taking action that demonstrate that they care and that they also already support the health of their employees. Here are some of those examples at a high level. Conversations, opening an environment to discuss. As you might imagine, the construction industry is not really great on all of those open conversations about stress and mental health and problems. They like to, get out of the truck, put their hard hat on, leave their problems in the truck, and go to the job site. The problem with that is that all of the problems are still up here. But there is good news. The culture is changing. And partially due to unfortunate statistics, but also thankfully due to more awareness and understanding. Speaking of awareness, training and awareness campaigns and resources. There is a ton of awareness and training being done to help people become, at the very least, more empathetic towards the issues. On a higher end scale, more sophisticated training being delivered to practitioners who can intervene on a proactive basis, providing support and assistance. When we look at access to professional services and interventions, larger organizations have already started providing access to professional services, as well as launching interventions where data is being collected proactively on mental health stressors. This helps them intervene with services or resources, allowing people to counteract the challenges they feel they are going through. But these actions, how valid are they? Are they truly helpful? What makes them effective? And can they harm someone's mental health even more? These are some of the concerns that this team wanted to address through this project. So the next couple of slides are going to contain a lot of information, and we're not expecting you to read it all. This slide in particular, the headline alone, mental health apps market size worth $17.5 billion by 2030. That really should grab your attention. I also believe that this number is currently outdated because the number grows exponentially every day. There is a lot of demand for mental health services in the market right now, especially with the apps that are out there. And whenever we have a lot of demand, we also have a lot of folks who take the opportunity to make profit. And some of those services that are sold are highly effective, but those that are highly effective do come with a price, and there's a lot of us that can't afford that price right now. Other services that may not be based in evidence may not be effective either, and they're also sold to people or offered to people for free that are desperate for solutions. And a lot of that comes to us with the social media, right? Every one of us can scroll through Facebook and Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Twitter, which is now X, I think, and you can see all of the ads for these new mental health apps that are popping up every day on a daily basis. These speak to people because they're free, they're cheap, and they don't have to interact with people, But what are the outcomes? I think they may be very questionable. Again, no need to squint at these slides because there's a lot of information. But these are some of the examples of some of the mental health apps that are out there that are using chatbots and AI. This one in particular, a BBC reporter pretended to be a 12-year-old child who was being forced to have sex. And the responses back from the chatbot seems like you really care and that's really beautiful. Not really all that helpful. It's the stressors come in waves with that, and the people are just going to be more harmed. The second one is somebody who is struggling and coping with just everyday life. They can't get through their tasks. They're looking for help. And while the chatbot offered that they should go get some professional help and see somebody professionally, the comment after that was, just keep swimming. And then the third example we have here is a person who has a serious eating disorder and was looking for help and looking for guidance to help them through this troubling time. And the chatbot asked how they were today, and they said all they wanted to do was throw up, and the response was, always nice to learn about you. These are such dismissive responses. And while these are not specific to the construction industry, these are examples about what can happen to people who are desperate looking for help. It creates a dangerous situation where someone's mental health can actually be further harmed by the solution that's being provided. And this is what happens with non-evidence-based solutions we implemented with mental health area within it. It also demonstrates what happens when non-professionals try to address someone's mental health issues. Our personal experiences with mental health makes us more empathetic, but thinking that we have the expertise to help somebody out and offer solutions can be very, very dangerous and unintentionally make us look like we're not taking mental health as seriously as we should be. How many in here have broken a bone? Probably almost all of us, right? So if we break a bone, we can be empathetic to that person who's experiencing the pain, but we certainly cannot be the expert on helping them find solutions on how to fix it. We are not orthopedic surgeons. If I break my nose and you break your arm, what works for me is definitely not going to be working for you. But somehow, with broken brains, we all of a sudden feel comfortable or feel more comfortable offering at the very least, hey, you're having a stressor problem here. Maybe you should go talk to somebody in your workplace about that. How do we even know that other person that we're offering up is even capable of that? And how do we know that it hasn't harmed them in a mental health way once they realize that they've been given this task and they have no idea how to help this other person? I'm going to go through all these. So these questions are extremely important because mental health is super messy, it's controversial, and it's very highly technical. It's not something that we can easily train people within a few months or even several months. And please, please do not devalue the medical professionals out there that have had years of experience and training and do this as their daily job, helping people with mental health challenges. We also do not want to provide resources that are not supporting the employee into the direction of wellness by unintentionally helping with good intentions or because we want to help. Poor mental health is a medical condition that is serious and it continually evolves. It interacts with our socioeconomic standings, our cultural backgrounds, our lifestyle, our work type, education, technology. There are so many things. And what this means is that we are dealing with something that rarely has the exact same root causes, experiences, and solutions across a large population. What depression means for somebody might be slight, and for another person might be dramatic. And you're not going to have the same solutions for those two people. What this means is that our tendencies to identify deviations from normal behavior, how we look, how we present ourselves, they're based on biases. And this is a scientific fact. And this is why we need to fight the stigma of mental health. We also need to understand our own biases that get in the way. Therefore, we cannot find simple solutions for something that is such a highly complex personal problem. This is not to say that we cannot do anything to improve the mental health for our employees, but it is only to say that we need guidance on what to do, and more importantly, sometimes what not to do. We need evidence-backed solutions so that we treat this serious issue with the reverence it deserves. And with that, I'm handing it over to Sid.
Thank you. Thanks, Dana. All right. So, let's see. Yes. Dana mentioned some of the issues that we are dealing with the construction industry, and trying to find simple solutions is not going to work. So I'm going to tell you what we did in this research project to address this issue. Number one, we reviewed the medical literature in detail in this guide that will be shared with you. And what it does is it tells us what they know and what they don't know. And so it also tells us where exactly is the line in the sand with the help we can offer and the over-promising that we might be doing. In conjunction, I will show you those results. In conjunction, we also sent out a survey to all the field and office employees across North America that partnered with CII and CSRA. And we asked them a few questions. There is a lot of studies that have already found 50, 60 stressors that exist in construction industry. I don't think anybody here has the resources to address all those stressors. So which one should we focus on? We asked them, rank the list of the stressors. Which do you care about most? Which impact your mental health the most? We also asked them, okay, what do you want out of your work when it comes to wellness? And we used the US Surgeon General's framework, which is, by the way, open source and widely available. So you can download and read through it. But we asked them, what should the construction company, the organization, focus on? We also asked them a solution that is becoming quite popular within the industry, peer-based support. I'll talk about that in a second if you're unfamiliar with it. But we asked them, how effective do you think that is? And finally, we asked them the big question, how much blame do you put on the construction industry about your poor mental health? In other words, we are trying to ask them, have we tapped into a demographical issue? It's not directly construction industry's fault, but something else that we have tapped into? Or is it our problem, that we are doing something so unique that's causing the issue? So we shared the survey, and I want to share with you, we got a lot of responses across North America. I mean, everybody knows how much we all love surveys, and then there's construction workers. So to have 501 people respond, and about 100 of them were Hispanic people, that was very significant. We sampled both field and office employees, so 501 were from the field, and the remaining were from the office. And here's what they found. Here's what we found. Now, part of this result is not going to be very surprising. They ranked the number one stressor to be financial uncertainty. We've heard about that from the different speakers on different panels today as well. Work demands, not very surprising, and factors outside work. Here's the surprising bit. Look at the last line. Field people, office people, Hispanics, Caucasian, young and mature workers all ranked these three stressors exactly the same. That kind of demographical consistency is shocking. It also gives you an unambiguous target to aim for. You want to improve people's mental health? Here's exactly your target points. Let's go to the next one, which is factors outside work. Now, I have a big X on it, and I think you'll all agree with me, again, following up with what Dana said. So we are not qualified to handle people's factors outside work. Somebody's life is this. We know that much about them. I'll give you another great example. Let's say you wanted to hold an intervention, and you invite some of your peers. Do you call up every single friend and family member? Everybody here knows that there's that one person we're not going to call in this setting because they're going to be more harmful than they're going to be helpful. That's factors outside work. We have the potential to tackle something that we are simply ill-equipped to handling. Number one, and number two, the construction workers haven't consented to having these conversations about things outside work, inside work. They're not necessarily going to be okay about that. So that's one thing. We can go more in detail about that later on. But here's what people are also saying. Again, the results are not going to be surprising, but what is surprising is across all demographics, field, office, young, mature, Hispanics, Caucasians, these were the same three ranks of what people want from their work. They want job satisfaction, financial security, and sense of community. Why are we sharing this with you? For any other investment that you're making, you have success and failure metrics. You know if your investment is working or not. For mental health, we are kind of like, let's throw the kitchen sink, something has to work. Maybe we'll see numbers reduce in suicide, which from a safety perspective, we've learned total recordable incident rates and all those ways where we measure these outcomes is statistically flawed, philosophically flawed, and just generally a no-no. This is your target points. It tells you what to do and what not to do. All right, let's keep going forward with some of the more results. Construction industry is responsible for poor mental health trends we see among employees. And you can see right here, it's completely divided across the board. Some people strongly agree, some people strongly disagree, which reinforces the fact that people are exactly about this issue like they're about politics and anything else. The answer is somewhere in the middle. Yes, construction industry is doing some things to harm their health, but they're also incredibly proud and passionate about being in this industry. It is still a generational family industry. People love being here, people love working. But it's undeniable that we are doing a few things as well that is harmful. And we just found out those are the stressors we need to focus on. Here's another one, and I want to pay attention to this for a second, because this leads to the overall conclusion I want to make. For the peer support, in quiet and private setting, I would like my managers, my leaders, my coworkers to check in with me about my mental health in workspace. Look at the last two columns. Strongly disagree, strongly agree, 21%. Well done. So, talk about, again, what Dana was mentioning. It's messy. And there are some people who are going to be super happy and super unhappy about your task, your choice of investment, your intervention. Here's my analogy for you all. We're right before lunch, so I have to give this analogy. Peanut butter and jelly sandwich. How many of you like it? I'm going to say that was about 70-80% of the room, right? So if I roll in peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, great. I'll be in the next 15% who doesn't really like it, and I'm sure there are a couple of people here who are like, where's my marshmallow fluff? Right, exactly. And then there'll be 5 people with an anaphylactic shock, because I didn't ask them if they're allergic to peanut butter. Then there will be a couple people in hives, because I didn't ask them if they're allergic to wheat bread. And now, take this analogy into mental health, and the problem becomes even messier because you don't know what you're allergic to. If you did, you would be a therapist, you'd be a psychiatrist, you'd be a counselor. We can't self-diagnose ourselves, but somehow with mental health, we feel very comfortable self-diagnosing. Here's my question to you. What's the difference between stress, anxiety, and depression? There are 3 different medical terms. They're not exactly the same. They're different clinical diagnoses. How are we equipped to do these things? How are the peers that we've asked, the EHS manager, the HR person who you've tapped on the shoulder and said, go fix the mental health issue. What about their mental health? Can they actually manage something along these lines? So, want to reiterate what Dana made a point about. There is some things we can do, but we have to stop doing anything. What is the logic behind your intervention and investment? What are you targeting, and what exactly are your success and failure metrics? Just because it's mental health doesn't mean we can invest without any outcomes that we have planned for. So, in medical literature, the guide will go through about 50-odd different citations that we found in medical literature and breaks it down in layman terms for you. But the big highlight is there are no validated solutions that mental health of diverse group of people can be tackled through one solution. Because this is mental health. When you say I want to improve mental health, I'm not sure what you mean. Suicides, disorders, illness, stressors, psychosis, ADHD, what's your goal? Saying I want to fix mental health is like saying I want to fix safety. I want to fix productivity. When I say I want to fix safety and I want to fix productivity, you chuckle. You're like, what an idiot. But with mental health, we need the same reaction because with safety and productivity and other issues that we are technically skilled in, we know that when somebody is BSing and somebody is not. First step for mental health, we need to educate ourselves to figure out when somebody is selling us a snake oil solution versus something that will actually work. Now, I want to take 1 second and pause and just have a chat with you. You might be going, dude, what the hell are you talking about? You just said everybody has the same problem. They just ranked all the stressors the same way. They just told you what they want. Why are you now trying to tell me everything is messy? Seems like everything is very consistent. Yes? Confused? There's 2 problems here. Number 1, what the data is showing is there consistent root causes of problems within work that's causing mental health issues. However, just like everything else in human being life, we don't respond to these stressors the same way. Your depression doesn't look like my depression, doesn't look like somebody else's anxiety, so we can't be fixing somebody's health issues. We have to be in the preventative side, not in the remedial side. No training, no intervention is going to be effective in long term because that's like playing whack-a-mole. Everybody's going to be different. So there's the difference. Tackle the root causes that cause most of us stress. How that stress manifests, that's a different story. So, what did we learn from the medical literature is that there are no generalizable markers of poor mental health. If my hair is like that, doesn't mean I'm having a bad day. But I'm telling you that people use these markers to know if you're having a bad day or not. And suddenly, what happened if I walked up to Bert, who's got messy hair, and he's like, hey, dude, are you okay? He's going to be like, what's wrong with me? What did you think why am I being asked this question? What did you do? In an effort to break stigma, what did you actually do? You reinforced it. Somebody looked different. Am I looking freak? Is it rational? No. But it's not our job to determine what's a rational response and not. That's a mental health issue. Our job is to deal with this messy reality where we can't look at somebody and be like, depression. That's incorrect. Depressed people are not sad all the time. Folks with mental health issues do not show generalizable self-care neglect. I don't know about you, But my reaction was very similar when Robin Williams news broke out. Anthony Bourdain, Chester Bennington from Lincoln Park, people who talked about their mental health issues in public life, we thought, okay, they've accepted it, they're dealing with it. And suddenly something happens, and we are all caught off guard. This is why generalizable markers are not a good thing. That's how stereotypes get formed. And we are the last people to be doing this. It's the job of psychologists and clinicians to do this. So biases are in everyone. You know, Tim and the previous presentation mentioned as well that there's so many unconscious biases. Our good intentions can lead to mistakes. That's what we need to acknowledge. And when it comes to mental health, I gave you markers, the stressors. Remember which ones they were? Financial uncertainty, work demand. That's what we're targeting. And what people want? Job satisfaction, sense of community, and financial security. So that's what to do. But what we also learned is we need to proceed with caution because that's not the gist of it. Your intervention, at best, could lead positive impact, and at worst, it's not no impact. It's potential for self-harm or negative impact. So the motto to take forward from here is doing something, not anything. As leaders, you're very, very invested in wanting to do something for your people. This is where we care about mental health. And I will end my section by just saying the last things to you is go back with mental health what you do for any other department within your organization. Interrogate and depose every person who comes and pitches to you a solution. The guide that we have produced helps you do that. What are the right questions to ask? And you know that old joke? I'll have to make this joke about myself, but PhDs are not doctors in this field. So just because I walk up and say, Dr. Bhandari, no, not here. Fake doctor. In this context, you have to stop referring to people as Dr. Sid Bhandari. I got a PhD in construction safety. How can I pitch you a solution without an experiment that shows you a control group, a treatment group, and the data? This is a medical issue. And we're not treating it like a medical issue. Not because we are being obtuse or dense, but because we care, and people are taking advantage of it. So, we got a peer-reviewed conference paper that walks you through what not to do. And what do? We have a mental health guide that walks you through why we need to act. It's not that we are suggesting don't do anything. What is harming mental health in the workplace? What can we do, and what should we not do? I want to just leave you with the last comment before I turn it over to Bert. The emphasis on what not to do in this presentation is primarily because the train is leaving the platform, and we want to emphasize to everybody that be careful. It is not to say you shouldn't do anything. Do something, not anything. Okay? So Bert's going to walk you through the last few slides, and then we'll take your questions.
Thanks.
Thank you.
On your swig. Good morning. My name is Bert Royer. I've been an ironworker for 50 years. I've seen a lot of mental health issues on job sites. I've seen suicides. I've seen overdoses. And for the last 11 years, I've worked for the Ironworker Management Progressive Action Cooperative Trust, which is an ironworker labor management partnership. And we, as a group, have taken mental health and moved it to the top of our list. And I have a favorite story about mental health. Not all stories are bad. This one's actually a good one. About 12 years ago, I had a young gentleman come into my office on a Friday morning, about early 30s. He was a mess. He had mental health issues, drug issues, alcohol issues, family issues, and he had a real problem with absenteeism at work. His world was falling apart. So I spent about a half an hour having a discussion with this young gentleman. And I asked him to come back in the afternoon with his wife if he was sincere about moving forward with help. Right after lunch, about 1:30, 2 o'clock, the young gentleman shows up with his wife. We had the same conversation. The reason I had him bring his wife back was I wanted to be sure, because I was sending him to a rehab, a 28-day in-house rehab. I wanted to make sure that the family would be okay financially. We had the discussion. The young gentleman left my office with his wife. He went to rehab the very next morning. Spent the 28 days, followed by counseling. So we continued counseling after. We took care of the counseling also. And I did random checks on this young gentleman, and I can tell you, he was showing up to work every day. Family life was good. The rehab had worked. He wasn't doing the drugs and alcohol. He'd been promoted to foreman, and I thought, wow, this is great. But the story doesn't end there. About 6 months after this all happened, my office manager, Shelley, calls my phone and said, there's a young lady here to see you. And I go, okay, send her in. Who is she? I don't know, just send her in. This young lady walked into my office. I got up to greet her. She was a 12-year-old girl. And I said, can I help you? And she said, yes, I'm here to give you a hug because you gave me my dad back and my family. I closed the door and I cried. I had no choice. I'm a rough, tough iron worker, but man, that one got me. And every chance I get, I tell that story because one person at a time is how we're going to take care of this business. But that, to me, was, and I still see those people 10, 12 years later, and they're doing well. And to me, that's what makes it all worthwhile. If we take shots randomly without any consideration, chances are that many of these actions will dramatically vary in their effectiveness. Sometimes we will hit the mark, but other times we will miss the mark. What we need is a long-term strategy, something to resolve systemic issues facing the industry. If we're making calls to actions, let's address the issues deeply impacting people rather than apply Band-Aid solutions. I need to get this back. These are the stressors. Carrying the dartboard philosophy forward, we must measure the success and failure of what we do. As leaders, we do that for everything else in the industry. This should be no different. We need to make systemic changes that might not be in the middle management's gift to give, in which case, we need the right people with the right ownership of the problem. Do not task HR people without the power to reduce financial insecurity or job demands of employees. Consider their mental health on being tasked to do something they have not been trained to do. Oh, man. So we've put together a guide that should be used by managers, as Dana and Sid said. The guide is designed for you. We've just finished it, and in the coming weeks, it will be shared widely. This will not be behind any paywall because we believe this can support you, the leaders of the industry, to better make changes, meaningful changes in the hour of crisis. Our efforts to improve the mental health of our employees should not be proprietary, but a shared learning goal. We need to come together to solve this problem if we are to make a lasting change. Finally, we're just a cog in the machine. Mental health crisis is not something we own completely and will not be something we conquer tomorrow, not next month, or even next year. We're dealing with a global crisis. Yes, within our industry, there's some blame to be shared as we exacerbate the poor mental health of our employees. But remember, as we task our middle management to deliver the results on mental health metrics, first, their mental health matters too. Engaging in mental health issues is not easy and should not be trivialized. So let's be empathetic to everyone. We cannot solve, nor should we try in the workplace, societal problems. It is not appropriate. Second, even if we do the right things, we may not see the results because we live in a world where mental health is a pandemic. We must do our parts, support and help where we can, and let's use this moment to change the things about the industry that we have known are problems. On the final thoughts, I have one more thing. I have spent a lot of years in the industry, and if you turn the page back 20 to 30 years ago, you walk in a job shack, you didn't walk in saying you had mental health issues. That was a big no-no, a big taboo. It's just one of them subjects you didn't discuss because we're all big, rough, and tough, and that's for other people. We don't act that way. This is where I feel there's hope in the mental health issue. The young workers today are far more open to discussing mental health and other issues that used to be taboo in a shack. And now some of the older workers have realized, you know what, maybe they're right. So I believe that we have hope. I believe that if we keep going one person at a time and directing them towards mental health, again, we're not psychologists, our job is to direct them to the right professionals that can take care of the problem. So that's the gist of what I have to say. I just thank everybody, and I'd like to thank everybody that participated in Research Team 401. Thank you.
Oh, don't take my page. Thank you so, you didn't, you're good. You're good.
I'm not stealing.
Thank you so much for this important work. We again have lots of questions, so thanks everyone for sending in your questions. This is an interesting one. Is it working in the construction industry that exacerbates or causes mental health issues, or does the construction industry attract more people that are likely to have mental health issues?
All right, first Bert can go.
I would like to say that it doesn't attract the people that are likely to have. Here's the thing. A lot of the people that work in construction don't live in major cities. So many of them are forced to travel. They travel 500, 600, 700 miles away from home, and they're bored. There's nothing to do. So what do? You go to the bar and you have a couple beers every night. Then you keep going to the bar and you have a couple more beers and a couple more beers. And you know, it just escalates. Then the absenteeism starts because I got really drunk last night and it didn't happen. So I don't think that it matters where the people come from. I think the habits develop over time with the job.
Yeah, so I'll add to that. This, first of all, fantastic question whoever asked it, thank you. But there are a couple of problems here. Number one is, as Bert mentioned, that we are using solutions where we are asking them to support each other. People we also, in the same breath, say are highly stigmatized towards mental health. So we are asking people who have stigma for mental health to help each other, which creates this vicious cycle of bad coping strategies, dysfunctional strategies to deal with mental health, number one. Number two, look at the stressors, and they're nothing new. We all knew about construction's cyclical work cycle and how people do work, and the job demand and labor shortage has made things worse, but it's been there. We may have to consider the possibility that we broke the camel's back. We asked people to be rough and tough in this industry to work, and now we are very surprised that their mental health has essentially broken. So there is a global pandemic, and different genders, different ethnicities show mental health issues differently. Caucasian men tend to lean more towards suicide. Doesn't mean Caucasian men own mental health. It's just that different women develop chronic mental health issues. And so different genders, different ethnicities react differently. And we are now living in a reality, post-pandemic especially, of people not knowing where to turn to for this new mental health crisis that they're dealing with.
Thank you. So you touched on it here, but a lot of construction projects take those workers away from their family and their support systems. They're in remote locations. Does any of your research show what kind of things we could do to support a better work-life balance for these workers?
Yeah, so one of the things that we've done in that survey, I showed you 5 questions. There are about 5 more that we've asked. We've asked people, what has the construction company done to support the employee mental health? And what has the construction company done to harm the employee's mental health? And we asked it in general terms because we didn't want people to feel the coercion that we said, you, what has it done to you? We wanted them to generally reflect. That data is still being analyzed. Some of the things that they've done that they appreciate is the increase in pay cycles, the increasing pay structures, and the mental health assistance, the insurance, the medical services being access that is being provided. That is deeply appreciated because certain companies have actually not limited it to an individual, but have opened it up for the entire family. So that's something that's relieved financial stress as well as provided them the right resources. But the thing that they feel is harming them is overpromising to clients. So we are going out and we are overpromising to clients that we'll deliver this project by X date and so many different deadlines and milestones. And we've forgotten about the people that are having to do multiple shifts. They're earning more and they want to do it, but they are also suffering because of it, and it's again a vicious cycle. So we have to see if we have to change how we are promising what we are doing.
Okay.
I'd like to add one.
Sure.
So when I started as an iron worker, it was not rare to go to a 90-day construction camp in northern Canada, which means you get on the plane, you go up there, you're going to be home in 90 days. When you have little kids, 90 days, single parent, it caused home problems. So they recognized that. They cut it to 45 days. In today's world, I've asked hundreds of workers what their favorite shift is. 2 weeks on, 1 week off. So they work 7 days a week for 2 weeks, and they get 1 full week at home. Everybody loves that shift. And I think in order to accommodate the workers, you have to work with, work it into your schedule.
Mm-hmm. Very good, thank you. Well, thanks to our research team, our panelists here. We really appreciate it.